See it fade. That was perfect. Okay, welcome back to Winnetka State Park here, which means, can only mean one more thing, more mid-ranges. Yes, I thought I was done with the overstable ones, but popular request, the Discraft Buzz OS. Some people were saying, how could you not include that? So we got it. And we also got a special thing now because we got the Balance V2, which is what Simon has chosen to be the final production. So we got the V2, which should compare directly to the Buzz OS. And then we also got the production run of the Caynon. Well, the mold slightly changed to the production. So we got that full production run now. So now we get to see how these actually fly in production. I had the prototypes. Unfortunately, there hasn't been a production run of the Glacier yet. So sorry, Discmania, I gotta get that thing out there. But yeah, we're gonna roll with these. And then I do have one more of these coming too. I was gonna do this originally with the beefiest of the beef, but I'm just gonna do a quick one with these three. And then we're gonna do the super beef, like swarms, justices, deflectors, those type of discs, and see how they compare to each other. I got a bunch of them ready, but I want to shoot that a little bit separate from these because these are a little bit in that kind of slightly overstable range. So anyway, it's a nice day, a little breezy, so we should get some headwind throws. And we're just going to do a quick loop with these three and see how they go. And we'll start it off with the Buzz OS, kind of a classic ESP. It's rated 4503. I've kind of never thought that they were that overstable, but we'll see. Whereas the Caynon is also supposed to be the same numbers, whereas the Balance is supposed to be kind of a 0.2. So we'll see how that holds up here at altitude. We got a little short downhill one. It's just 243, slightly downhill, but I like to give it a nice little flex just to see it come back, hold the hill, and then kind of finish low. So just a little short baby downhill flex. Buzz OS. Yeah, hold that flex and come back right to the base of the hill. Ooh, man, I've had a bum ankle, swollen ankle for the last few days, and like, I've been really awkwardly bracing, even though it feels better now. My brain still doesn't quite trust it. So my last step has been a little awkward the last few days. All right, let's go with the Balance V2. Yeah, nice little flex, comes back, nice and pushy. That was a little lower, but you kind of saw it on the flex and fight back. Okay, now we got the Trash Panda Caynon production run. Came out really, really nice. Got some nice bottom tooling, stamping. The plastic, pretty flexy. I don't know exactly what they changed in the mold, but it feels great in the hand. It's very shallow, you can forehand it. Pretty stable. Let's see how it compares. All right, little baby flex, Caynon. Little subtle flex, pops out, scoots right up there. Feels really nice in the hand, flies great. I like that soft plastic. It sits really nice. So if you kind of want a gummier, overstable mid, it's a really, really good spot. And it's very thin and shallow if you like that. The Buzz OS definitely feels quite a bit bigger. The Caynon feels a lot closer to the Balance. We'll do a quick look at the profiles here in 1 second. And I kind of through the Buzz OS, pretty relaxed, but these are gonna be almost in the same spot, all pretty close. Yeah, you can definitely trust them with that flex angle and they will fight out. We all got kind of right, could have thrown them a little harder, a little short on all of them. But yeah, quick look at the profiles here. You can see the Balance looks quite a bit faster than the Caynon. The Canyon's a bit blunter, but they are similar kind of shallow height. The Caynon might be a little bit, tiny bit taller than the Balance. Balance is pretty shallow. although balance has a little bit of a shoulder on it. But overall, very, very comfortable in the hand. Micro bead on the balance. Also kind of a more traditional bead. Not super big, but it has a bead on the Caynon. And then versus the Zone OS, similar profile. It has a little bit more of a sharper bottom of the wing. Kind of the convex comes up a little bit sharper on the Buzz OS. But, all right, see how they putt. Buzz OS. Oh, Caynon, her balance. Caynon, they putt, okay. Well, that should have been 3 for 3. These are old single chain baskets. You have to hit them real soft and really, really small cages. If you're in the area and you really want to get good at putting, you might consider coming to Waneka and practice on these baskets. These are old school and they do not catch a whole lot. So, yeah, kind of fun to play on, surprisingly. I don't know, I wouldn't want to play a rated tournament on them, but they're entertaining. All right, hole 5, it's 317, kind of straight out, wide open. Just gonna kind of push these straight. I think we got a little bit of a crosswind, a little slight cross head, so should be good to see how these hold up. And we'll start with the Caynon. Very nice. Thanks. Very solid. Held up to the crosswind. Still faded at the end. Not overly glidey. Almost in that 4.5 speed territory. Almost like a little slightly more stable tempo. Maybe not like a true 5 speed. This balance feels like it'll go a little further. Feels a little faster. It's a little straighter. It's coming out though, but still fades nicely. I think it just pushes a little further. And now the Buzz OS. Yeah, nice Buzz OS shot. Super reliable. Also, I think probably a little faster than that Caynon. We'll see, but yeah, definitely holds up to the crosswind, pushes straight, still fades at the end. Very solid. And that's kind of about getting toward the edge of my distance with kind of more of an overstable mid 5 speed. So this is a great basket for it. You can see, we'll see what distance we got. I tried to throw those all pretty close to the same. I think I did put a tiny bit of flat to very baby Hyzer on the balance, which caused it to be a little straighter. But you did see it fight out and fade back, which is really nice. I think, well, you know, I may be wrong about the Caynon because it was like a foot farther than the, well, they're dead even and 2 great shots, but we got the balance here was just a few feet further, which kind of makes more sense. One, the angle, and theoretically being a 0.2 type disc, or maybe a 0.2.5, I don't know what they're gonna label it as, but slightly, should go slightly straighter than these 2 guys. But easy birdie on a nice wide open hole. Gotta love a nice stable mid, something that's not too beefy, but like you can really hammer on. And not worry, like I said, if I throw a hex on that same line, I've ended up in the street before, but normally it just kind of goes too long where you have to almost create your fade with the hex with the hyzer angle and the height of the shot. All right. Now, one good thing about these mids as compared to some of those other overstable mids, they're all pretty thin profile and they will hold up to forehands pretty good, even if you're not the cleanest. I have been quite a bit cleaner getting there, so we'll see how this goes. But this 300-foot downhill, I probably can't reach it with a mid, but sometimes, some days. So we'll give it a shot and we'll see how it goes. All right, Buzz OS. There we go. That I got the snap through. You can see it fade. That was perfect. The balance here. Said I've gotten pretty close with a matrix and been able to matrix, so this balance should hold up even better. My forehand's been okay lately. So we'll see how we do here. Balance. Not bad. Just a little drift, but look at it fight back. Get down there. Look at that. I can get to this with a mid now. Forehand is improving. All right, here's the Caynon. Feels good on the forehand. It's a little flexy, which can kind of be hard. I know why a lot of forehand players really like stiff discs, because sometimes the angle your hand comes, they can kind of bend a little bit. It doesn't bother me as much on a backhand, but I do notice it a little bit on forehand sometimes. But we'll see if we can't get this smooth. All right, here is the trash pan Caynon. Not bad, not bad. I didn't quite get my wrist all the way through. It came out just a touch early, and didn't quite get that kind of full flat like snap through, but not bad. Like, it holds up really well. You don't see it really wobble despite being a little bit floppy, maybe a tiny bit, but let's see if I actually got close. I've not been able to get close to this with a forehand with mids, and I think I might have just gotten too really close, but we'll see here. My depth perception is any good. All right, Caynon was a little short, but not bad. I don't mind it. And Buzz OS was pretty good too. It's within, edge of circle. Where is the, balance. Balance was really good. So yeah, the balance, again, makes sense. It's just a touch straighter than these other two. So you get a little bit more push than these more overstables. So far, they feel pretty true to the numbers. Oh. Oh. All right. Like, were those two feel like 0.3s? And this does feel like more like a 2 to 2.5. Yeah, easy bird for the balance. Nice. All right, this one's 250 here. I might throw this twice. I might try this with a forehand as well, because the backhand is so easy, but I think for a lot of people watching, this might be great distance for you for these type of discs. For 250, if you need something that'll get there, but still have a little bit of stability, and you can't quite get there with like a putter or a stable putter, then like a mid like this would be really nice. They will also hold hyzer really, really well. So we can kind of give them a launch out there. Hold the hyzer with the Buzz OS. We got a little bit of a headwind too, which is really nice. And since it's a head cross, I don't think I want to actually hyzer it too much, because we don't want to get it too much swing. So instead, since it's blowing almost right at me from up that way, I'm going to kind of throw these flat to show how reliable they are, kind of smooth, and let the disc do the work. Normally this I would throw like more of a putter here, but sometimes having a stable mid like this, where you just throw it smooth into the wind and let the disc do the work, is really good. Yeah, get down. All right, not flat enough. Hyzered it right into the tree. Yep, that's kind of what I was afraid of. I didn't want to hyzer it too much. I needed to actually push it a little bit, and you can go really wide with these because they're stable. So let's try to make the correction with the Caynon. Get it a little more wider into the wind and let the disc do the work. Yeah, there we go. Just a little short. I still didn't quite get it flat into the width I wanted with the balance. Oh boy, I yanked that one. But it still kind of come back. See, I yanked that quite badly, and it's still not that bad. So, because it's still stable, held up in the wind and didn't turn over. I think the first two, had I put them on that line, would have been great. I think the balance I could maybe on the other two lines might have been great. So, just kind of reverse the lines a little bit. But I don't think it's actually going to leave us too badly. So, the nice thing about an overstable mid, they are pretty reliable. Again, if I'm trying to like high hyzer something that's straight, like a hex, or even like something that's slower, like an envy with that crosswind and missing the angle a little bit, a lot of times that will just stay flipped and really, really drift. This was good, I just didn't get it. I just unfortunately did not get it hard enough. Left myself right in the tree. Oh, bummer. That was sweet. And same thing with the Buzz OS, just a little too inside. Nope. No birdies on the shortest hole of this stretch, which is kind of funny. All right, so let's see what the mistake left us with the balance. See, it's still basically on the edge of circle and slightly deep, even though, like I said, I yanked that pretty bad into the wind. So nice to have some reliable stability. Oh, all right. No birdies for no one on that one. Bummer. All right, we're back at hole, so we're gonna throw this again. This time, we're gonna go with the forehand and try to get around the bush. Go with the Caynon here. Since it's 250, I might be able to do this. Oh, wind just kind of pushed it. I didn't really get much on it. That wasn't great. All right, let's try the Buzz OS. There we go, fight back. All right, it's a little bit short, so don't quite have the power in this like head cross to get these there uphill. Well, let's see if I can get the balance maybe. Oh, wobbled it to death. Cranked it over with wobble. That didn't work. Bummer. All right, Caynon was short. Both of us almost got there, despite the crosswind, and then the balance just couldn't quite handle the. I tried to push it a little too hard, and it got sloppy, and it got, like a lot of mid ranges, it got wobbled to death. But it is 280 uphill, and it feels like it feels longer than the one on the top, which is 317. It feels like I throw like 330-ish power to try and get to this. All right, we'll start out with the balance. I think I'm gonna have to slightly flex them to hold them straight up the hill and see if we can't get them up there. Little flex uphill, not always the easiest thing to do here. Oh, a little two nose up. I did get good flex on it though. All right, that's in circle. A little short. Man, sometimes it's hard to throw uphill and still keep the nose down. All right, now I got the Caynon. Yeah, there we go. Nice little flex. And sit. All right, a little short, a little short. I thought I got that pretty good, but it's a little short. All right, now I got the Buzz OS. Ooh, little nose up again. Kind of short as well. Gosh, I just didn't quite get the nose angle up the hill. It's a very kind of tricky thing to do because you're already throwing up, so you're kind of throwing nose up by default. So you almost have to get your wrist to tilt a little extra to kind of, so your launching angle is upward, but the nose is still down a little bit so that it almost matches the hill. So you're not going, your nose angle isn't above the launch angle, and that will allow you to kind of push up the hill. It's very kind of a hard angle to hit sometimes. Those weren't too bad though. And we were all gonna have a look, and I didn't quite get the flex on those I wanted either. That's another hard thing to do sometimes, is to get that flex angle when you're, to lean back when you're kind of trying to throw uphill. But these aren't bad. In fact, the Caynon was better than I thought. This time the Buzz OS actually didn't really glide on me. Oh, Caynon got in circle. This is nice. And balance got pin high left. Oh, knife. Oops. Oops. And I goofed the putt with the balance, but that's fine. It technically was the best throw, but the Caynon is the one in the basket, so I don't know. Take from that what you will. All right, I'm just gonna go a quick back from this basket back to the basket we played before, and we're just gonna do kind of like an approach forehand hyzer, which is what a lot of people might use this for. Maybe if like you want a little more distance in the zone, or something's just too overstable, like this is something you can approach with. Nice and consistently. Boom. Little hyzer. Here's the Caynon. Canyon's gonna get down a little quicker. The nice thing about that soft Caynon, it sits really nice. And here's the Zone OS and a little hyzer. Oh, there we go. Oh, I almost threw the zone. So you can actually use these as kind of an approach disc, even on forehand. I think when you start getting into the forehand flexes is where these may struggle a little bit, just because they still are mid-range. I mean, they will do it if you're clean and you have good spin. But I think with a lot of people, and myself included, when you start getting into that forehand flex is when you start introducing a little more torque and wobble. And a lot of times the mid-ranges struggle with that. You can see even on the hyzer, I kind of wobbled the balance. And it thankfully was enough to keep it recovered, but not too bad. There we go, made up for the last putt. Little approach shots with the Caynon. Ooh, chain out. And the Buzz OS, I almost went in the basket. Very nice. All right, there you go, that's a quick one with the Buzz OS, the Balance V2, which is the production balance, and the Caynon, production Caynon. Very nice. Buzz OS feels pretty true to the numbers. Pretty solid here, especially like very stable. I was able to get really good forehands with it. Even when I handled flutter very well, it's a little stiffer, chunkier rim, so it kind of felt a little more comfortable on the forehand, despite I thought the balance would be the most comfortable. But it's probably the least stable, and so it's a little more subjective to the wobble. Sometimes the inner rim can kind of make a difference too. I know as Jeremy Colling was talking about how like the inner rim slope, whatnot, can affect forehands and where it meets the disc. I don't know if my forehand is consistent enough to really tell, but stability-wise, the Caynon feels very close to the Buzz OS. A little different flight characteristics because of the rounded edge and the bead, but yet every time I thought it was going to be a little short, it did seem to push pretty nicely, and it was either equal to or slightly beat the Buzz OS. So it's very, very similar. So I think those flight numbers are going to be really close. I think that original Caynon felt more like a 4-speed. So maybe that's some part of the retooling, that maybe this Caynon actually feels like a true mid-range 5-speed. Not super glidey, so like a 5.403 for the Caynon feels about right to me, about the same as the Buzz OS. And the Buzz OS is super quality mid, right there with, like, in some of my previous reviews, if you look at like the Kutuku and the Silicon, nicely overstable, very consistent, and really good on both forehand and backhand. Buzz OS is solid, and the balance is really nice as well. It's just a tick less stable than these two guys, so it kind of really does fall into that kind of 0.2 category, maybe 0.2.5 here at altitude, where it's still pretty overstable, but it handles a lot of power and can handle a good amount of torque. Not quite that much. You did see it a couple times. I was able to wobble it and it kind of struggled a little bit. Like, it just doesn't have that super torque resistance, but enough. And especially on backhand, like, I've thrown this really hard. It's been in my bag for, this is also probably the most beat in out of this because it's been in my bag now for a month or so. And I've thrown it a decent amount, and it started out really overstable. So it was maybe closer to this to start out with, but maybe not quite, but very, very consistent. I have thrown it hard on touch of flex, and it always finishes reliably. Very, very good disc, very comfortable in the hand as well. Kind of for my arm and what I kind of want out of the disc is just about right. These two are really close, but usually just a little more overstable than I want. So, because I kind of want to usually push this, and for me, this is hard to tell the difference between like this and a zone. And I really like my crystal zone, and you know, I can kind of push it hard, and it does pretty similar things. Like, you're starting to get in the weeds between a 5-speed and a 4-speed. And yeah, so that's kind of where I sit right now with these. I really want to do probably some more proper field tests of like some 5s versus some 4s speeds once I kind of really start narrowing down my bag, which is unfortunately going to be quite a bit down the road because I am leaving for a couple of weeks. My first ever major. I'm going to the US Masters this next week, which is going to be awesome. I'm super excited. And then on to Vegas for my first big regional A-tier. So that's going to be fun. I'm super excited for that. I'm a little worried how my discs are going to fly at lower altitudes. That'll be interesting. The US Masters is up in the mountains, so at 6,000 feet, so I should be really comfortable for that, so I don't have to adjust too much. But that's super excited. And then once I get back from that, I have a lot of time off before Worlds, and not that many. I'll probably end up jumping in a lot of tournaments. I just kind of end up doing, but I want to get a lot more filming done and really start plowing through my collection. I haven't had the most amount of time lately. I've been working my way through, but I got so many more discs. I still got to get to the neutral and understable mids, neutral and understable 7s, 8s, 9s. I've got so many discs, it's insane. I don't know what to do with them all, but I'm gonna have fun. And I may start doing more frequent videos like this with 3 at a time, and then rather than the longer ones with more discs. We'll have to see. I don't know. I just pulled out a bunch of 8 speeds, like all the 8 speeds I had, and I had way more than I thought to try and compare to some T-Bird 3s. So I may split that up into a few, and that way I can get a little bit quicker editing and get these out a little more frequently. I don't know, we shall see. But thank you for watching. See you in the next one. Depending, I don't know if I'll have enough time to get shot and edited before I leave. Hopefully I'll get this up and maybe the beef mids, we shall see. But yeah, catch you in the next one. Peace.